we say in benching at the end of the first bracha, right? Kihu, most people say Keil, Hashem's name, Zon umefarnis lakol, umeitiv lakol, umechin mazin l'chol b'yeisav. Now the Asam, if you look in some Sidurim, you see the Hashem's name Keil in brackets. The Yekes don't say it. Others don't say it. So where does it come into be saying it? Do we say it? Do we not say it? We grew up, almost all of us said it. It's in almost every Nusach Ashkenaz and Nusach Sfat Siddur. But if you look back at the old Sidurim from the Kadmonim, from the Rishonim, the Avud Raham, the Mordechai, the Mate Moshe, it just says Ki Hu Zon Umefarnis Lakel. Because he, now we were talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're talking about Hashem already. Because Hashem feeds and clothes and he takes care of us. We know Zon is food. Mefarnes, we spoke about earlier in benching, means clothing and all the other needs a person needs. So what's the correct way? And where did it come into being? So it's very interesting that in the old Sidurim, you don't see it. In the Rishonim, you don't see it. You see in the Rekeach, it says Ki Hu Zon, very nice. You see it in the Avud Raham, it's not there. What happened? I don't know exactly, but I could tell you. The Rabbah tells us that even though the Avud Raham, the Mate Moshe, doesn't say it, but he tells us the Or Chodosh says it to us. Now the Or Chodosh is a Yid that's mostly unheard of, but he lived in the early 1600s, right? The Rabbah lived a little bit later. He was born, the Or Chodosh was born in 1610. The Rabbah was born until about 50 years later. And the Or Chodosh has it in his Nusach of benching, Ki Hu Keil Zon, and it sort of has been adopted by most of Klal Yisrael. So how do we understand Ki Hu Zon without the Keil? How do we understand Ki Hu Keil? What are we adding by adding Keil? So Ki Hu Zon umefarnis lakel. So it's very interesting. The Ri Ben Yakar Arishon explains us that what are we saying? That HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're a melech that can feed us, not like a melech basar v'dam, not like a human king. What's the difference? A human king, when a human king goes to war, and for those who are doing that Yomi recently, it's the beginning of the Sechtes Ksubis, right? What happened? They would go around, they didn't have the whole army to bring a food, right? They would take food from people's houses wherever they went. They didn't bring food along with them. It wasn't like the American military that sends hundreds, thousands of extra people to set up tents and food and kitchens to feed the army. They went and they would knock on the doors of wherever they were, and you had to feed them. So the Rebbe Yakar says, Ki Hu Zon umefarnis, was saying HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the ability to take care of the whole world, run wars and everything, and yet still make sure that each one of us as individuals has food. Ki Hu Zon umefarnis. So what does it mean, Ki Hu Keil Zon umefarnis? Why would we add the word Keil and Hashem's name, this name over here in benching? So Rav David Goldberg, that tells the Rosh Hashiva, says a beautiful point. He brings it from Rav Hutna in the Pachad Yitzchak, that the Tosfos in Rosh Hashanah says, Keil hu midas chayzik. Keil we know is the midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu of strength. Ki biyad chazaka hu mechin mazayin l'chol habriyos. And there Tosfos says that this midah of Keil, of midas chayzik, is the biyad chazaka, the strong hand with which he prepares food for all briyos. Ki dechsiv hakfirim sheyagim l'tarif Levakesh Mikael Ochlam, a pasuk in Tehillim, that we get the food Mikael Ochlam, and therefore, Funna says that's why we say Kael over here in benching. Maybe that's why the Or Chodosh had the Nusach or added. I don't know. I wasn't around to answer that question, but that's the Kael is the Chayzik, is this Yad Chazok of HaKadosh Baruch Hu of constantly feeding us, and that's what it means Ki Hu Keil Zon. So whatever your minig is, whether it's to say Keil or not to say Keil, you have so many on your side. Like I said, it's very interesting. In the Siddur Eitzat Tefillah, on the top, it says Ki Hu Keil Zon. But in the Naf Yosef, the Eitz Yosef, which are the two main Perushim of the Eitzat Tefillah, Siddur, it says Keinu Mordechai, Ki Hu Zon u'Mefarnes HaKol. He says that's Hana Mordechai and Mate Moshe, that would Raham, V'loika Al Ches, which is the Or Chodosh, Shekosav Ki Hu Keil Zon. So you see, so many say that definitely the original meaning was not to, but at least when you're saying it, understand what we're saying. We're saying this midah of Keil, this midah of Chayzik, Yad of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is the hand that takes care of us and gives us our food.